Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, a second honorary degree for Prime Minister Cadet, this time from Duquesne Catholic University. Special focus on mental health of the youth as a key building block to a resilient nation. And the head of the Manufacturers Association points to the economic impact of the loss of Dominica Brewery. The details coming up.
M&J Covering is the producer of designed galvanized and galvalume in Dominica. They design to your specifications, color and length, 4 styles of galvanized and galvalume pre-painted roofing sheets as requested, and supply all your galvalume accessories. M&J Covering helps you control spending and reduce waste. At M&J Covering, they are also equipped to build your roof to precise standards anywhere on island. So come to M&J Covering at 1 Mile in Portsmouth or call 445-5001 275-5003 today.
First up in the news, Duquesne University of the Holy Spirit in Pennsylvania on Tuesday conferred an honorary degree on Prime Minister Cadet. The Doctor of Humane Letters was conferred on the Prime Minister by the university's president, Ken Gormley.
Your Excellency, Roosevelt Skerritt, Prime Minister of Dominica, as President of Duquesne University of the Holy Spirit, and by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Directors of Duquesne University and by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I hereby confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges thereunto attached, and cause you to be invested with this hood appropriate to that degree. Congratulations. And he gets this diploma, and he didn't even have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this one. So congratulations.
Prime Minister Cadet was there to deliver the Integrity of Creation Leadership Address. He told his audience monster storms or natural disasters like Hurricane Maria were no longer relegated to the Caribbean or the Pacific region. Mr. Cadet says we are all vulnerable to the winds and rain and even earthquakes.
When Category 5 Hurricane Maria made landfall in Dominica on September 17, 2018, it felt like all the demons from all over the world had gathered up and flung at us at 175 miles per hour. Maria followed closely on the heels of Irma, one of the biggest hurricanes to make landfall on record in the Caribbean. In the space of just 2 weeks, 2 Category 5 hurricanes, a more than once in a 1,000 years event, shook the world into confronting our planet's changing climate like no disaster had done before.
Prime Minister Cadet says for many years we were in the dark alone, warning about rising sea levels. But after Maria and Irma, climate change was thrust out into the light. He urged his audience to seize the moment and not let it slip away. He noted that the scale of Hurricane Maria was a direct result of the warming of the waters of the Atlantic.
A few days after Maria struck, the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica declared its intention to be the first climate-resilient nation in the world. Some observers may say that we have overreached ourselves, that Dominica's intention to be the world's first climate-resilient nation is overly ambitious. We beg to differ. We believe, my dear brothers and sisters, that there are no alternatives. Dominica's vision is an integrated set of specific, practical, time-bound targets that we believe are achievable with resources that have been committed. As explained in the IPCC report, climate change impact and responses are closely linked to sustainable development, which balances social well-being, economic prosperity, and environmental protection. That principle was adopted in 2015 by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, to, and I quote, provide an established framework for assessing the links between global warming and development goals that include poverty eradication, reducing inequalities, and climate action, end of quote. Dominica is a natural candidate to demonstrate that a new, more sustainable development trajectory can be achieved.
He said Dominica was small enough that climate resiliency is within our reach in a relatively short period of time. Duquesne University is celebrating 140 years as a premier institution of higher learning. Prime Minister Skerritt was similarly honored by the lovely professional university in India in 2016. President of the Dominica Manufacturers Association is describing the loss of the local brewery as a major blow to the Dominica economy.
The manufacturing plant of the Dominica Brewery and Beverages Limited was located in Snug Corner above Fort War. The facility suffered major damage because of Hurricane Maria and was subsequently shut down, resulting in some employees losing their jobs. The DBBL distributes beverages from a facility in Belfast. However, DMA President Severin Mackenzie says the loss of the brewery needs to be taken more seriously.
You will see Dominica breweries totally abandoned, and surprisingly, with the departure of Dominica breweries from the country, there has not been much attention given to the loss that Dominica suffered, because we are now producing all our beer in St. Vincent. But I guess since Dominicans are enjoying their, how do you call it? Chibisao and Kubulis on the markets, I guess they do not care as to where it is being made, since they can consume it. But it is in fact a very big blow for the economy, because just imagine the amount of money that is leaving the economy, the country right now, for the purchase of beers.
Mackenzie says it would be good to know the plans for the assets of the factory and if brewing can resume in Dominica.
It would be interesting to know what they are doing with the assets that they have. Is it possible that the assets that they have on the ground, because they still have the infrastructure that's not gonna. So it would be interesting to know whether they're going to remove all these assets and ship them out of the country, or is there going to be some move as to whether we can relocate Dominica breweries to some other place and to continue or restart the production of beer and the other products that they were doing at Dominica breweries.
As regards other manufacturing plants on island, Mackenzie fears for their future post-Hurricane Maria.
Many of our manufacturing facilities are in rubble. So, for example, in fact, I refer to them as a graveyard. Because if you go south and you look at Bello is in rubble. In fact, it's being overtaken by bush right now. We are very much concerned about losing Bello after over almost 60 years.
To date, the paper products company has not been able to resume operations either. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
The community mental health team is placing some much-needed attention on the mental health of the country's youth, and as observances connected to World Mental Health Day continue.
World Mental Health Day is recognized on 10th October every year, but the local mental health team is having 2 weeks of community and media presentations to drive home the point of young people's mental health. Consultant psychiatrist Dr. Griffin Benjamin says mental illness more often than not develops in young people, and for this reason, steps must be taken to provide enabling environments for a healthy mental state among the country's youth.
Mental illnesses are more common among young people than people when they grow older in life. Young people before they are 30 years are more likely to suffer with mental illnesses, right? Of the many thousands of Dominicans and people all around the world who have been diagnosed as suffering of a mental illness, this condition is most likely to begin before they are 30 years old. In fact, statistics show that 50% of people who suffered with mental diseases started these conditions before they were 14 years old, 1/4. And as many as 75% of people who suffer with mental illness began to experience these negative feelings before they were 24 years old.
Dr. Benjamin says the monetary amount allocated for mental health needs to be increased as there are growing numbers of young people afflicted by mental illness.
Critical information I've shared before is that 1 in 5 young person in the world suffer from mental illness. 20% of the population, yet the budget allotted to taking care of people with mental health problems, including young people, in our country is 2%. Around the world, average 4%. In the first world, up to 15–20% of the health budget is spent on mental health issues. So there are some key campaign messages that we would like Dominicans to become comfortable with. We want to create a healthy future for our young people. We want to create more services and better care for people who suffer with mental health problems. And we want to establish more activities that can prevent mental illness, that can provide early diagnosis and early intervention because it works.
The consultant psychiatrist pointed out that ensuring mental health among youth goes hand in hand with developing a resilient nation.
The mission of older adults like those of us in this room is really to produce healthy and stable young people to take over from us. You're healthy and stable young people. We often speak of resilience as if we are referring to strong buildings, strong road, well-built infrastructure. That is not what resilience is. Resilience in itself is a mental health concept. It's about overcoming challenges and also embracing the opportunities that come as a result of life experiences.
Dominica is observing activities surrounding World Mental Health Day under the theme Young People and Mental Health in a Changing World.
Member of Parliament for La Plaine constituency says there's been marked improvement on roads in the southeast. The southeast was one of the areas most badly battered by Hurricane Maria. Its road network was left more susceptible following the storm. Peter Saint-Jean says to date some bridge crossings in the area have been replaced, making road access easier in that part of the country.
As we speak, the White River Bridge crossing that was impacted during Maria has been replaced with a brand new Bailey Bridge. So access has now been created into Point Mulat. And so the farmers and residents of that area now can get to their holdings and their homes. Of course, we have the Buetica Bridge crossing. That was a challenge. It was impacted during the passage of the storm, but not to any great extent, and that has been addressed. In fact, the Ministry of Public Works addressed the strengthening of the Bailey Bridge. So Buetica right now does not pose any challenges. From there, we get into the Larond area, where contractor Gada Khan for some time now has been undertaking the construction of a brand new bridge. I must confess that it has taken much more time than we anticipated. Work continues in earnest. They have a November deadline for completion of the project. And in my discussions with one of the foremen on site, I've been advised that they are seeking to get it done by the end of October.
Mr. Saint-Jean says two major challenges remain, namely sections of the road in the Sari area and Mono Delis.
Right now, the serious challenge we have is the section of road from Rivière Sirik onto Sari, where sections of the road had been washed away and eroded. But in my discussions with the Ministry of Public Works, and of course, the cabinet took a decision that certain sections of the road that are beyond patching, those sections will be cut off and we will do concrete pavement. In addition to that, there has been a contract, again by contractor Cadet, from the Bois Diab Tarish Pit Junction onto Rivière Syrique, the Frayal area, where they are doing certain segments of the road. 2 segments of the road have been completely sealed. The 3rd segment was started about 3.5 weeks ago. That is at the Mont Odelis, the Mont Odelis section. But there are some peculiar challenges at Mont Odelis where we have a constant flow of water, and given the weather condition, that has impeded the project at Mont Odelis. It is still in a terrible shape, and once it rains, road users, that is vehicular traffic, has problem navigating that section of the road, albeit it is a situation that we have to live with for a while.
You are watching Channel 5 News. More news after the break.
Rudolph Thomas Enterprise in Portsmouth, your suppliers of building materials and hardware products. Over 20 years experience in the business. Rudolph Thomas has lumber and plywood, galvanized and fence pipe. Check out Rudolph Thomas for ceramic and vinyl floor and wall tiles, nails, nuts and bolts, paint and painting supplies. And check out their line of electrical and hand tools. Go now to Rudolph Thomas on 1240 Bay Street in Portsmouth.
Prime Minister Skerrit says government is committed to addressing problems of distribution of electricity in a more climate-resilient way. Speaking to Dominicans in Canada on the weekend, Mr. Skerrit outlined some of his plans to ensure the energy distribution and transmission infrastructure is less vulnerable to natural disasters.
And the question is, how do we mitigate against our transmission and distribution lines being impacted by hurricane? And therefore, we have started the feasibility studies of looking at undergrounding the electrical lines across the country. And of course, we're starting with this endeavor in the city of Roseau, where we'll be building a climate-resilient city by having all of the electrical lines, all of the telephone lines undergrounded. So in the event of a storm, these distribution lines would not be impacted and our generation would be intact, and therefore we can power up our country much quicker than we did after Hurricane Maria.
Mr. Skerrit says some of the post-Erica and Maria infrastructural developments undertaken by government have proven to be climate resilient.
Building Back Better was to employ more robust technology, though the employment of more advanced robust technology would mean that the cost of construction would be higher. But these investments paid off. The bridges that we built after Tropical Storm Erica withstood the elements and the ferocity of Hurricane Maria. So the West Bridge, those of us who know Roseau very well, the West Bridge was unscathed during Hurricane Maria. In the community of Belleville-Chopin, where we are building homes to relocate our friends and families from Pidit-Savannah, that housing development, which followed a model of resilience, withstood the elements of Hurricane Maria. Not one home that was under construction in that community was impacted by the hurricane. And this is what we're seeking to replicate across Dominica.
Government has committed itself to building 5,000 climate-resilient homes. The Prime Minister says contracts have been signed for construction of 2,300 climate-resilient homes for the most vulnerable families in Dominica. Members of the Dominica Cadet Corps have been commended for the role they've played in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. The Minister for Youth Affairs took note of that as she spoke at the Commanding Officers Parade on Saturday, which marked the start of the new cadet year. Justina Charles says she is also impressed with the cadets' respect for authority.
I want to particularly mention post-Maria, when many of our cadets were in the forefront giving service relentlessly to those who were affected. I really want to commend and ask all of us to applaud them for the tremendous work that they did.
Mrs. Charles has also commended parents for the role they've played in facilitating their children's enrollment and involvement in the Cadet Corps.
I want to commend the parents for allowing their children to be part of this organization, and your support in molding these young individuals to become leaders of tomorrow is critical as we look at what is happening in our society presently. So I really want to commend you and pledge my full support as the parliamentary representative for the Grand Bay constituency to the unit in Grand Bay, and also as the minister responsible for youth to the Cadet Corps nationally.
And the commander of the Dominica Cadet Corps has restated the significant role the organization plays in keeping youth on the right track and away from many of today's distractions. Commander Joseph Raymond says as the negative forces in society continue to relentlessly claw at our youth, the volunteers like himself pledge to forge ahead with the work of the organization.
The Cadet Corps Act number 2 of 2001, which officially revived the cadet program, saw no partisan bickering in Parliament because many parliamentarians on both sides of the aisle were all past cadets who were happy to ensure that our present generation and those who come have the benefit of this behavioral and skills program. And this is so true because in the 70s and beyond, and before that, all persons attending the Dominica Grammar School had to be cadets. I believe from fourth form, once you enter Dominica Grammar School and St. Mary's Academy, it was automatic that you had to be a cadet. Hence the reason why most of our former parliamentarians and present, so present, were all cadets.
A very small number of teachers are currently members of the Cadet Corps. Joseph says the organization would like to see more teachers join. He says it remains a challenge to deliver the cadet program with limited personnel and funds, but with the support of the school, parents and the wider community, success is inevitable.
Les moun qui ni TB estene et ben tout c'est, moun qui en bonne santé oli ouin ka respire c'est vermine là. Moun qui pa ni bon tempérament, kon sa ki ni maladie HIV, alcool, ka fumer, ti mamay et grand moun bien sensible pour ces maladies ça là. Moun qui ka tousse ni pour prendre précaution les yo en parmi moun en place publique, couvert bouche ou le ka estene et tousse. Visitez docteur et ben place santé. Fini tout traitement yo ba ou sa joine guérison et puis maladie TB. En responsabilité ou aider du bout de maladie TB et HIV, protéger corps et les autres.
To end the news, a look again at the headlines. A second honorary degree for Prime Minister Skerritt, this time from Duquesne Catholic University. Special focus on mental health of the youth as a key building block of a resilient nation. And head of the Manufacturers Association points to the economic impact of the loss of Dominica Brewery. Feel free to contact us at news@mapping2k4.com. You can access our past newscasts on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.